What's up, everybody? It's Aslan and Corey. Didn't think you'd see these two guys at this time of night, did you?
Surprise.
Here we are, though. So this is also going to be the Wake Up Warchant podcast for Monday. We should probably give a shout out to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida, off Appalachia Parkway. But I don't know. They don't compete head-to-head with ABC Liquors, Fine Wine and Spirits, so we all get along fine. A lot of cross-pollination there. But yeah. Sunday Smash, Corey back from Raleigh. Ira is still probably on the road. He's got a little bit of a further commute than old Corey Clark has. We'll be taking your questions here on YouTube. Showtime Spicer, B-Spice, Spice1, Ben Spicer behind the scenes. So we'll pull up some of your comments, and we'll get everybody integrated and involved in the show here. So thanks for being here, everybody. Tough one. Good column from you, though, Corey. 4-2 now, Florida State, after the 19-17 loss to NC State, in which they found themselves up 17-3 in the first half. And I thought that they simply looked much better than NC State. I thought NC State had no real chance of – I shouldn't say that, but NC State to me did not – I'm like, if this is the number 14 team in the nation, man, we are not far off on this climb as people might have suspected after a loss last week. But the way things came undone was quite unsettling, Corey. So I don't know if you want to start with anything that maybe stood out to you being the most unsettling thing, or how do you – want to unpack what happened Saturday night in Carter Finley Stadium for what seems to be like every time we're up there?
Yeah, you know what? It dawned on me as I was walking, because as when the game's over, we go down to the concourse and have to walk through all the fans leaving the game. And I've talked about this before when I'm walking through Wake Forest crowd after Wake Forest beats Florida State. It dawns on you, man, like a loss there to that NC State fan base doesn't really impact them that much. It's just a loss to a school that loses a lot. And I'm trying to be respectful. They are a better program than Florida State right now, clearly. But NC State's accomplished essentially jack squat since we've been watching college football. Phillip Rivers, there you go. Great. That's about it. Torrey Holt. But Florida State, it would have been so big to win that game. It just would have been – that's what bums me out the most, is how big it would have been for the team and this fan base. Think about this weekend, 5-1. I don't know what you're ranked if you go and beat NC State in Raleigh. I think you're probably ranked 19th, 18th. I don't know. And you're playing the number 4 team in the country at home, prime time, Saturday night, as a 5-1 team with the real hope to win the game. And I still think you have hope. Clemson is not unbeatable by any stretch. But that's what made it so. It's what could have been. Like, it was right there to snatch. It was right there in front of you, 22 yards away. And you throw a pick that loses you the game. This is how it's going to be. This is how it is in college football, period, unless you're Georgia, Ohio State, really. And even Georgia's had one of these. Alabama's had 2. Games come down to the final minute of the fourth quarter. With Florida State, because of the personnel and the teams they're playing, almost all of the games are going to come down to the final 1 or 2 drives of the fourth quarter. Almost every single one. In fact, they're 4-2. They easily could be 2-4, right, Aslan?
Yeah, I found it interesting.
They could also be 6-0.
Right. You didn't mention that part, though, in your column, that they could be 2-4. You mentioned they could be 6-0. But, yeah, I mean, but again, the breaks, kind of this is where they probably should be, ultimately 4-2.
But you want to just take advantage when you get a shot, man. Yes. You just want to take it. You got a targeting penalty to get even further down into their side of the field. You pick up a third down, finally, Toafili with a nice 2-yard run on a 3rd and 1. And then you feel like you gave them the game because you just threw an interception right to their guy. Like, it wasn't their guy necessarily just jumping over, Jalen Ramseying someone and making a great play. You can say he made a nice play by cutting Pittman off the route. You can say he held him, whatever you want to say. He made a nice read on it necessarily, but Jordan Travis had other guys to throw to in that route. Instead, he picked the one guy that kind of ran the wrong route, or not ran the wrong route, but stopped on his route, and you gave them interception and essentially gave them the game. That's what is so frustrating. Those were evenly matched teams, right? NC State could say the same. If NC State would have lost, they would have lamented giving up a 50-yard deke punt return with 20 seconds left in the first half to give them a free 3 points. Now, it's Florida State, so nothing is a free 3 points. That was a great kick by Fitzgerald. But so each team would have lamented that loss as, man, we kind of blew a chance there. But Florida State especially, I just thought, because they were in control of the game. And then they, again, like they did in the first half against Wake, they spiraled. The offense just spiraled for about 4 or 5 possessions and, let NC State grab control of the game.
Trying to find the the screenshot of that final play, because I don't know how many things really were even open in that moment, which almost makes it, I don't know, worse or better, but it just seems like he had that decision made, premeditated in his mind, and wasn't.
I think it was the look. I think it was the exact same look they had gotten on because if you don't know, if you didn't read our stories, what's the matter with you? Or if you didn't watch Norvell's press conference on our website, again, what are y'all doing? It was the same exact play that they scored on in the first half to Pittman, where it was one-on-one. Pittman goes up and makes a great kind of shoulder pad catch. It wasn't like he was wide open by any stretch.
It's like Velcro, but Jordan just stuck right on it.
It was great. Jordan gave him a chance. And I think in that instance, Jordan is doing the same thing. He's believing in his guy to go make a play because Micah Pittman has made plays for him. In that instance, Micah Pittman gets bumped off his route or held, however you want to describe it. He was impeded either way. And instead of continuing with his route, he kind of stops. The kid made a great read. I think he knew it was coming. And they just kind of threw it right to him. But yeah, when you look at I've looked at the still shot of it. Johnny Wilson's running a slant, which isn't exactly open because I think there's a linebacker right. The spy on Jordan is right in front of him. I think Toafili is running kind of out in the flat. A linebacker goes with him. And then Pokey runs a stop route, like a 4 or 5 yard stop route. Now he's open, but he's open at the 20-yard line. So you could throw it to him, but you're gaining 2 yards, 3 yards, unless he makes the guy miss a tackle. And then I don't know who the tight end is. It might be Marquiston or it might be another receiver. I think it's Marquiston.
It is Marquiston.
He's open around. So if you look at and I know you can't see this on the podcast. That's an audio medium. Johnny Wilson isn't really open because of that linebacker in between Jordan and in himself. I think that linebacker's awesome. By the way, good grief with that kid. Yeah. And then Marquiston Douglas is up more in the route. And he is open. Now, It looks like he's kind of tripping, falling down. He doesn't look like he's got his feet necessarily, but that would be what, Aslan, a 6 yard, 7 yard completion?
Yes. Yeah. You have all your timeouts. You have every single timeout.
You do have all your timeouts, but it's also second down. So now you're looking at 3rd and 3 when he makes that tackle there. So, and again, I'm not saying that Jordan made the right decision. Clearly he didn't. And then up top that you can't see is Pokey ran like a 3 yard stop, and he's got plenty of cushion. But it's not going to be much yardage. Second guessing everything in hindsight makes it look worse. It's not because I know people are upset. No, I don't think anybody watching this or listening to this or reading my column last night is upset that they went for it. You know what I mean? It's just maybe not that play. There's no need to take that kind of shot maybe in that instance. But you can see there's other options. It's not like, hey, we're running 4 verts. Get it in the end zone, baby. There were other options. You just had your, veteran quarterback choose what turned out to be the riskiest one.
You mentioned in your story, I think you also mentioned in the wrap-up that you did with Irish O'Fell, the Warchant wrap. Keep the comment up there. I like Javi. Shout out Javi. Give Javi a little music, too. I know it's not how you guys do on Sundays, but let's cheer up a little bit if we could.
Man, look at Javi's avatar there, his picture.
Well, I didn't want to,
I'm just saying, Javi's doing
he's a looking guy. You didn't outkick your coverage, Javi. You did well, man. You did what you deserve. I'm proud of you.
Javi's a good looking dude. Yeah, that's a good point. And she didn't outkick her coverage either. It's a match made in coverage.
It makes me happy when that happens, like that sort of mesh there.
Yeah, good looking people getting together. It's what the world's supposed to happen.
I know you said you can't in that moment. You can't center things up for a 40-yard field goal because of this kid's history, which is fair. But I mean, it had to have affected obviously the amount Jordan was pressing because he knew. Boykin said it after the game. We were aware they weren't going to probably put on their kicker. So I think Jordan's got blinders in that situation, which maybe some game awareness needs to be factored in there because it is second down. You do have 3 timeouts. You don't have to take the kill shot at that moment. But since it was a play they already ran that they did have success with, I think it just seemed kind of like a layup for him to go for it. And I don't know, man, I'm sure a lot of it's Monday morning quarterbacking. Watching the watch along with Jeff and Tom, I was like, I think he's kind of actually playing for the field goal crazily enough because they weren't going all that urgent. I thought they wanted to run the clock out as much as they possibly could, so NC State had no shot of doing anything, and they kept running the ball on first down on that last drive. I don't know, man. I think a 36-yard field goal is defensible, even with Ryan Fitzgerald's track record.
Man, yes, but not if I just don't. I just think we would be on. You talk about Sunday morning quarterbacking. I know you said Monday morning, but we're a college football show, right? We gotta change it. If you run the ball 3 times in the middle of the line to set up even a 34-yard field goal.
No, Corey, you could have taken the under stuff. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
okay, that's what I'm saying.
Jordan,
I thought you were talking about just running the ball.
no. But
Yeah.
I don't think Jordan's mind was like intermediate. I think it was kill shot.
I think what in hindsight, and look, there's so much more to this game than this one play.
Yes.
But we won't stay on it for the whole show. In hindsight, the goal there has to be we need one more first down. If we get one more first down, that means the ball is at the 12-yard line. And at the 12-yard line, now, and nothing, you can't take anything for granted. I get it. But at the 12-yard line, that is a chip shot. It's not a chip shot for him necessarily, but he had that kick he had at the end of the first half was the best kick of his career. I mean, that was as pure as he's ever hit a ball.
Yes.
Right down the middle with plenty of leg from 47. Also, there was nothing to lose there. It was a here goes nothing. It's crazy we even have a chance here. Let me just swing. It's a whole different mindset when a game is on the line. So, and so I get wanting to go score the touchdown. I get wanting to leave it in your best players' hands. And Jordan Travis, Micah Pittman, and Johnny Wilson are your best players on offense. Leave it in their hands to go make a decision. It did not work out, but I understand, like, okay, you didn't have to go for the end zone on that play. It was second down. If you get another first down, you really put pressure on them because they have to burn all their timeouts. So that's I get it. It's just, it's a play that's worked before. It's to a guy that goes and makes those kind of plays. Now, I think it's a fair criticism to say maybe run Pittman on the slant in your 6'7" freakazoid to the end zone. If you're going to just throw a ball to a spot and have him go out jump someone, I maybe do that. But look, I would have tried to maybe get one more first down. In fact, I was thinking, I don't think I told Ira this, but I meant to before the play. I was like, man, a quarterback draw here would be an all right play. Now, they might have been expecting it, but I just thought it was so illuminating after the game, Aslan, and that's what I wrote. When that NC State DB, his last name's Boykin, right?
Yeah.
The kid that intercepted the pass. After the game, he's like, well, look, we knew they weren't going to try to settle for a field goal. We knew they were going to try to score a touchdown. That might be the only situation like that in America between major college programs where the defense with the ball at the 22-yard line in that situation down by 2 with 40 seconds left knows they're not going to just try to set up a field goal. So you're coaching at a disadvantage, right? Because they know you have to go for it, like you pointed out, and that ended up hurting them, man. Not having trust in your kicker, not having a kicker you can trust is maybe how I should phrase it, hurts you in that spot because NC State played it differently than they would have if Roberto Aguayo was back there. If Roberto Aguirre's back there, they're sending everyone. They're run blitzing. They're trying to knock you backwards. In this situation, they're playing kind of soft coverage, thinking you're going to go to the end zone, and you did.
It's a Warchant polo, man. This is like a work issued polo. Everybody's complains I don't wear enough Florida State stuff. Let's listen to our dentist though. Our guy Z-Chan. Shout out to him. I won't play the air horn for everybody, but that deserves at least a.
Z-Chan's in the house. Z-Chan is a pillar, right? I mean, he's earned pillar status.
He's getting there. There. Gentlemen, please talk all these people off the cliff. We can still be successful this year. We are still a much better team, and our kicker made a long field goal. We shouldn't say pressing, Zach. Let's just keep pushing. How about that? I can't do it. Because I almost would feel a little hypocritical because I was selling you folks on so much hope and optimism. Well, maybe I should stick to hey, it's going to be all right. I don't know, Corey. Talk me off the cliff too, I guess.
Well, look, we knew this was kind of a tough stretch, right? I don't know what Wake is ranked now. I assume they're 12th, 13th. I assume NC State's 12th. Clemson's 4th. This is a stretch of 3 games in a row where you're playing 3 of the top 15 teams in the country. You certainly haven't been blown off the field by the first 2. I don't expect you to be blown off the field Saturday night either. You are a better program. You also had to play that game without your 3 best defensive tackles. Cooper goes down in the first half. Jared Jackson goes down in the second half, and he wasn't right. Neither one of them were completely healthy anyway before that. And then Fabian Lovett's not playing. So you have some issues up front, and that's a big deal, man. if NC State couldn't have run the ball up the middle, I don't know that they would have had 100 yards, 150 yards of offense. If you had what you normally have in the middle, are just capable, competent college defensive tackles, I think you're there. And maybe Malcolm Ray's getting there. Josh Farmer, I thought, had some nice plays. That personal foul, the only thing that made me feel better about that is seeing the ridiculous Tom Brady personal foul.
Oh my
today.
gosh!
I mean, I can't believe that.
Horrible.
But so that one wasn't as bad as the Tom Brady one, but it was close. He basically got penalized for hurting the quarterback. Completely legal hit, but he hurt the quarterback. I don't remember Wake Forest getting flagged for knocking Jordan Travis out of the game last year on that Hail Mary. But what are you going to do? Sometimes if Florida State hits you too hard, it's clearly a penalty. And it cost them 3 points because that gave them an extra 15 yards on what turned out to be a field goal drive. So, look, man, Florida State is better. Florida State is a bowl team. Florida State is, I mean, that's what's so – you just want the numbers to reflect that. And, you know, this is close to a 9-ish win team, I think. It'd be so good if they could get healthy, man, especially on the defensive line. But I think with all their parts, they're a 9 or 10 win team. So you feel good about that. But at the same time, you had a win right there to snatch, a win on the road in a place you don't win or don't play well very often. And you squandered it at the end. You squandered it at the end, and you gave them an out, which, you know, they didn't deserve. I will say this, though, when you talk about blowing a game or who deserved to win, who didn't, the best unit on that field by far was the NC State defense. You know what I mean? That thing is legit. That's a very good defense.
Half, though, I don't want to diminish anything that Florida State did offensively in the first half or what they did defensively as a whole. That NC State team to me did not look like a very high-quality football team, man. The defense maybe second half rose up.
The defense is good, though, right?
They're not bad. Yeah, I don't want to diminish them. That offense is bad, though, man. NC State's offense is not good at all.
Right.
So I think 19 points is totally fine. I don't begrudge a defense any way, shape, or form. Florida State's offense only putting 17 points up and all of it in the first half. That defense wasn't that good to limit you to 93 yards and 5 of 13 on third down or whatever it was.
And 9 minutes of possession time in the second half.
Yeah, you just
but I mean, part of that is they're good. Part of that is you didn't play well. Dropped some passes. Your quarterback made some bad plays. That didn't help. But to win games like that, you know, I don't know. It's a cliche, but you got to make 1 or 2 more plays than the other team did. McClain has a chance to catch a touchdown, doesn't? Johnny, I think, drops a 4th down pass. I never saw the replay really well. That one in the first quarter, was it a drop or a pass breakup? You know, then also he drops the 3rd down throw early in the second half, which was a killer because they had kind of you wanted to kind of grab momentum back. Pokey Wilson had a big drop that could have led to some more points. Like they did not play well for long stretches. And that was troubling to see. Part of it is because NC State's good. Part of it is because, Florida State didn't play well, but that's the next step, man. You got to play better in those moments, man. You got to play better in those moments. And so far, the offense, the best they've looked in the 4th quarter of a game this year, when the game was on the line, in my opinion, is when Tate Rodemaker was the quarterback. And that's crazy. That's not how that should be. I know Jordan had some nice moments against Wake. I guess I shouldn't say that, but they were trying to come back. Against LSU, they didn't do anything with that last drive. They could have put the game away, and then they fumbled at the 3. And then obviously what happened at NC State happened. And they got it because it's going to be a close game in the 4th quarter, most likely, against a supremely good defense Saturday night. You got to go make some plays, and you can't shoot yourself all over your leg.
So, I mean, the gist, I guess, really of looking on this sunny side or silver lining is injuries are a real part of the game. Everybody's dealing with them, but maybe they're hitting this program a little bit harder than everybody else. Because, I mean, you talk about this team being better, but what are we measuring it against? Are we measuring it against 2019, better than 2020? Do you get credit for the 4th quarter comeback when you've thrown 3 interceptions in the first half? You know, like, do you get credit for making this thing look better after you kind of cratered it the last 2 years? You know, in terms of looking at this thing optimistically, it's just it does look significantly better than it did in 18 and 19. It does. But you're 4-2, you're probably going to be 4-3 here in 6 more days. So that's That's the hard thing to kind of reconcile at this point, Corey.
Well, and probably maybe. I mean, Clemson's a 4-point favorite. They're a better team, but this is almost a coin toss. It is not, because they got the better defense. And their quarterback is playing pretty well, although they struggled. They didn't look good at all on the road against Boston College for 2.5 quarters on offense. You just wish, man, if Clemson couldn't just run up the middle on you, I think you win this game. I literally do. If like you had your healthy defensive tackles, I think you'd win this game because you'd make them one-dimensional, and I think you beat them like that. But you probably can't. But we're not here to talk about Clemson right now. There's the chance, a pretty decent chance, I guess, that they're 4-3. Well, what are they at the end of the year, man? What if they win 4 of their final 5 and finish 8-4, which means you beat Miami or Florida? Maybe you beat both of them. It's hard to really look back and compare this team to last year's team until we see the finished product. But through 6 games, they're certainly better. It's from what it was. They 2-4 last year. Now they're 4-2. So they made some strides. And also, last year they were down 30.
Significantly better than that team that ended the season somewhat strong last year. That's the kind of the thing right there.
Yeah, it's just, yes, I do think that, but man, so last year they played NC State. They lost by 2 touchdowns. Now it was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter, but they lost by 14 points. Louisville, they were down 31-7. So Wake Forest, they were down 28-7. Well, they were this year too. This year, the common teams that they played from this year and last year, they've looked better. They've been more competitive. They should have won the NC State game probably. Last year, they were kind of lucky to be in it in the fourth quarter. They also didn't have their starting quarterback. But yeah, man, I think they're better. I think my eye test tells me they're better. I think the offense is better, but the offense just put up 17 points and got shut out in the second half. So what does my eye test tell me? At the end of the day, you got to produce. And the problem is that's why the loss to Wake Forest was so troubling. And the way you played was because you didn't play well, I didn't think, against them. Because you knew what was coming up. The 2 best defenses on your schedule by far are the one you just played and the one coming up. So even if you play well on offense, what are you going to score? 20, 24? Like, look at the scores that Clemson's given up, man. Nobody scores on this team. They just give up 3 points. They gave up 3 points to NC State, right? Or maybe they gave up 10 points until a last-minute touchdown when the game was over.
Yeah.
They don't give up points. They are really tough to score on, except for Wake. Wake went up and down the field on them. So that's what's concerning, is like, where's this all? What are we going to feel about this team and this offense after this week? Because if you struggle scoring against NC State, I can promise you, you're going to struggle to score against Clemson.
Treasure Coast tells me to stop. We're down so many on the D line. This team is so much better. If we have our starting 22, we are 6-0.
You look, that's true, but nobody has their starting 22 right now. So in
Alabama didn't have it, A&M doesn't have it.
Yeah, A&M didn't have it. Maybe, NC State lost their quarterback in the third quarter.
And they still had 3 scoring drives after he left the game.
Now, one of them was a negative 23-yard scoring drive because of the punt. So let's slow down with criticizing the defense on that. A minus 23-yard scoring drive. But yeah, the one issue we thought coming into the year, well, we had a few, but my biggest concern was pass rush, and then right after that was backup defensive tackles, and not knowing that Cooper and Lovett would play 1 game essentially through 6. That's tough, man. And you're not great there. You're just not good there right now. Especially when the guys that you were playing were banged up. So that's when you look back at some stuff you could do in the offseason, if there's one criticism you could make of like Norvell and Fuller, because you can't control injuries, but you can't control who's on your roster. And maybe when you're in the portal, you make it more of an emphasis on going and getting a tackle that can go play for you.
Or
that's
kicker.
all.
Or a kicker.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point too. There are plenty of kickers out there that would love to come play football in Tallahassee.
Yeah. Listen, you'd be hard pressed to argue that this team is not better. To Corey's point, the eye test, like we've seen this team look really great in those first 4 wins, man. There was moments in those games where they looked really dominant, really impressive. This coach said this quarterback is special on multiple occasions. But you're here now staring at the fact that you're going to be +1 in the win column when you hit this bye coming up versus where you were last year. That's that's kind of the hard thing to reconcile. But
isn't it harder just because it was there? Like the way the game played out.
Yes,
If
absolutely.
NC State
17-3, that team they looked impotent. They looked
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think that's the bigger deal than the record, because 4-3 is 4-3. Like when this season started, nobody the best anybody thought they were going to be is 5-2. So 4-3 isn't that far off. And but it's that you had it right there at your fingertips, literally right there, and you kept dropping it. That's what your fingertips were doing. That's the frustrating part. If NC State had beaten you 27-17 and they were just better than you, but you know they didn't. You had a chance. You were up 17-3, and then of course the one criticism you can have of the defense, and I thought they played well, especially in the second half, because the offense kept giving the ball to the NC State at the 13 or the 40. And they still held them to 3 points on those two drives. That first drive of the second half, man, go compete. Quit letting teams just roll right down the field. You talk about an offense that looked impotent. All of a sudden, they come out and you can't stop. They don't even get to a third down as they go 84 yards. If you get a stop there, in my opinion, you get a stop on that drive, that's ball game. I legitimately think that. That's how football games can work. But you didn't. You let them go right down the field. You didn't even force a third down. Other than that, I thought the defense played as well as you could possibly want it to play, considering what they're working with.
Z Chan, thanks, man. Throws some more money at us. Question: maybe we can ask Norvell this on Monday, because I don't know. They've mentioned what he sees pre-snap. I don't know if he has the autonomy to completely change out of a play, but he says, how often do we think that Jordan is changing the play pre-snap based on coverage?
So I watched this
the worst situations at times.
Yeah. And you can see it on TV too, but I watched this a lot yesterday. It seemed more pronounced than normal that the line would get set up. They'd be in their squats, ready to go. And then Travis would tell him to calm down as he looked over the sideline. And he's looking over the sideline because Norvell's calling the play based on the formation. So to me, that would tell me that a lot of those reads are the head coach's reads, and he's just going with what the head coach is calling at the moment. So I don't know how much. I don't think it's a ton of changing I don't think he changes the play as much as Norvell tells him to change the play. But I do know that some of those are actual options where he can keep the ball or give it to the running back. And again, it was nice to see that he had a 70-yard run. He had another 20-yard run. He had a 14-yard run. That was good to see. I just think there's got to be even more than that. And I know that's asking a lot. And I know he's still not 100% healthy, but he looked pretty healthy on that 70-yard run. He's a difference maker with his legs. And when you're playing defenses like that, especially ones that, you saw they were lined up sometimes, Aslan. It was like it's a 3-3. There were times they were run blitzing so hard on those handoffs to the running back. Toafili was having to dance and shuffle and move just to get back to the line of scrimmage. And those are just wasted plays. And they did that a lot on Saturday. But again, NC State stops most teams from running the ball.
He didn't have enough runs, Jane Newsom says. I guess she's probably talking about Jordan.
Yes.
I want to kind of get your thought on this, Corey, about
I agree, Jane Newsom, by the way.
I don't know how much of this was coach speak or him kind of opening up and maybe trying to share his true thoughts on what happened, Mike Norvell, after the game. First off, sidebar, felt like you guys should have got and maybe given him a hug at some point. That was up there with Willie, Virginia Tech, in terms of just being completely just disheveled.
I think the difference was Willie was stunned disbelief. I think Norvell was like anguish.
Okay.
Maybe anger, but mostly anguish. He was, look, man, and that's the kind of guy he is. He's a fired up, he's a fiery guy, and those people are emotional. And, when they win, he's jumping on his players' backs and breaking rocks and doing, just jumping on Papuchis' back. And when they lose, he looks like he's at a funeral. That's how those kind of coaches are. But he certainly cares. He's not an even keel guy. If you want an even keel guy, he ain't it. Leonard Hamilton, he's an even keel guy. Mike Norvell isn't. You're going to know exactly how he feels. He doesn't hide that at all. But yes, he was crestfallen, man. It was funny, and I didn't bring it up in my column, but the only other time I remember a coach being like that was in that same room with Jimbo in 12. Like, just like complete, utter anguish. And like, now he was a little defiant, but he was, you could tell he was stunned and like he had seen a ghost. Kind of in 10 too, with the Ponder fumble with Ty Jones. So that place is a horror show.
Yeah. But, he mentioned this is on me. I don't know how much of that is a coach speak thing, or if there's anything that you think kind of does fall ultimately on his shoulders, because I think Jordan, all things considered, outside of those 2 major turnovers in the fourth quarter of a game on the road against a ranked team, played pretty well. He was let down by several drops. And listen, Micah's touchdown catch was impressive. Pokey had a real nice big catch in the first half. So that, I don't want to say that offsets the drops, because I feel like, PFF credited them with 3 drops as a team. I feel like there's probably more than that. But I feel like he still was kind of at a net support from his wide receivers based on what he did. So looking at, a lot of people complain about second half play calling. So looking at here in the second half, I've tallied all this. They had 11 first down plays in the second half. 3 of them were passes. One of them was a 9-yard completion to Pokey, which ended up being a 3rd and 16 because Dylan Gibbons got a little too physical. One of them was an incompletion, and then one of them was an incompletion to Trey Benson where he got targeted and they still got a first down.
Oh, I thought the interception was on first down.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. The 8 other plays were runs, and 6 of the 8 runs were for 3 yards or less. Now,
and one of the runs, I think, was the first run of the second half, and it was when Jordan Travis kept it, and he got 14 yards.
No, but that was of the 8 rushes, correct? But only 2 rushes they had were for more than 3 yards.
That's what I'm saying. And one of them was the quarterback. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't be so predictable when you have a guy like that in the backfield, and you're going to run that set, and you're going to run those plays, that you give it to the running back 90% of the time. Because that's what happens. You weren't good enough to block those guys when they know you're running you're running that way. And you look at the numbers, and they ran for 200 yards, right? Or right at it, somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 yards. Well, your quarterback had 110 of it. That's the way you run against these teams, man. If you're going to run against Clemson, you are not going to line up and just hand the ball off to Trey Benson and run for 150 yards against those guys. So, yeah, I get it. I did not like the play calling in the second half. I think he's trying to establish the run. I think he looks at that defense and thinks, if we can't run on this with 3 men up front, then we're not what we think we are. But you've got to coach to your strengths sometimes, and you have some really talented receivers, and you have a quarterback that you really like, and you put it. I just thought, 30 attempts isn't, that's not 19. That's a pretty decent amount for this offense. But, I just thought that you didn't give him in the second half when you could not move the ball. You kept giving yourself 2nd and 9. Every drive was 2nd and 9, except for the one that was 2nd and 1, and then you got the personal foul.
Yeah.
But again, that feels kind of I did Sunday morning quarterbacking a little bit.
No, that's why I was asking you, like, legitimately. And listen, man, I'm not a Mike Norvell defender, man. I do not dislike the guy. I don't think we should have sat down at a table and given him like a whole bunch of money after 4 weeks either. I don't think we need to get a U-Haul truck either. But I'm curious about when he goes up there and says that, how much of that is coach speakers. There are certain things that you think he legitimately, because he kept talking about missed opportunities. I don't know how many. There wasn't a lot of egregious things I kind of saw last night that made me think that he, a better coach would have had Florida State winning that football game. My biggest concern right now, man, is that with him calling plays, like, he's got a lot on his plate right now, because not only is he calling plays, he is now having to almost play psychologist with Jordan, because, man, these last 2 games in particular, when it's not working the way they've drawn it up, whether it's them executing it or what they're expecting to see from the defense, and they're not executing, man, Jordan is coming off to the sideline with like really bad body language, really frustrated. Not like competitor agitated, but like a sort of a personality trait that you don't want to see from your quarterback. And Norvell's doing a really good job of calming him down. So he's now having to call plays, get his quarterback figured out, calm him down, get him back to playing special. And now he also can't call like a full buffet of plays, because I don't even think he understands what he wants to do in the red zone because of the kicking situation. Like, he's got to figure out one of these things quick. He's either got to be able to get Jordan reined back in and find some of this confidence that he's kind of losing here in the last few weeks, or figure out what he wants to do with the kicker, find a kicker that he can somewhat quasi-trust from 38 yards and inside, because I think that opens up and changes everything. Because I think what we saw with him at the podium after the game was just the weight of losing that game in that fashion. But, man, you're calling plays. I'm at my quarterback that I trusted so much and was looking so good in these last few games. Every single time he comes off the field now, I have to go calm him down. And I also don't know what I'm going to do with my kick unit right now. I mean, these are the things that he's got to solve one of these to right the ship this season, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know when he said that about this. He's like, I told the team this too. That loss is 100% on me. I got the impression he was talking about the final play call. That he kind of gave them an out to go intercept a pass. And I don't know that he needs to be more conservative, but maybe something where you take the decision making. Maybe you don't give your quarterback 5 options on one play. You give them a couple of pretty safe routes to get it another 10 or 12 yards if you can. I don't know, or a quarterback draw or something. But he did blame himself. And yeah, the stuff with Jordan has been a little bit troubling. Going back to the in the middle of that Wade game, he was having to do this, calm down, man, calm down. Jordan was really kind of antsy or anxious.
He's on tilt, man. He was
feeling it. Yeah, he was. And in this game, I know the only time I really saw them interact like that was after the interception. And I think Norvell was trying to explain to him what were you looking at? What did you see? And, Jordan really wants to win a lot more than any of us want Florida State to win. He desperately wants them to win. And so he's putting a lot of pressure on himself. And when he makes a mistake, and all quarterbacks make mistakes, he feels bad about it. And
but
you don't want him to play tight, though.
Yeah.
That you can't play tight and play that position well, especially because you remember the North Carolina game last year, and I've seen it other times. I saw it at LSU. He was smiling the whole game, Jordan Travis was. He was just out there having fun, making plays. There wasn't the weight of the world on him. Well, there aren't any weights on you when you're 1-4. It's just, hey, man, go have fun. Well, when you're 4-1 and you're playing the number 14 team in the country and you're you have a lead in the fourth quarter, there is weight on you, and you've got to learn to accept that and play with that. And that's another, when you talk about a program maturing, you got to mature with the weight of expectations. And when you start a season 4-0 and get ranked for the first time in 4 years, expectations come with that. They clearly haven't handled them well. Again, the defense, I just want to, it's hard to even complain about what you see from the defense necessarily. I thought they were fine. But what the offense has done, it has definitely regressed these last 2 weeks. And then, oh, goody, you get to get back on the horse against, I want to cuss. I know we're allowed to cuss on this one, but I'm not. I'm going to keep it family or against effing Clemson, man. That's who you get back on the horse against, is the best, maybe the best defense in the country. So good luck. You just win this game 10-9. Who cares? Win it 14-13. Yeah. Then the next in November, you can go be a great offense again. You've got to find a way to put up somewhere near the neighborhood of 20 points. But that's why these last 2 weeks and the Wake Forest game too was so troubling, is because you knew this was coming. You knew this bad boy was waiting for you after NC State and after Wake Forest. And now they're here and you're riding a 2-game losing streak. So you go in to playing the best team on the schedule with the least amount of confidence you've had and no momentum. And that's not a great recipe typically.
I like how you talked about maturing with the expectations of the season, because, I mean, so much of everything that everybody's dealing with and processing right now is because they started off 4-0. I mean, again, if we would have talked about their 4-2 going to the Clemson game in July, I think most of us would have signed up for it, especially with a win over LSU. But here we find ourselves. We started off 4-0, and then these 2 losses, and then Clemson comes to town, to your point. I just wonder, do we need to look at it from the prism of July, where this first half of the season before the bye, you're thinking your 4 hardest games are probably LSU in this 3-game stretch. If you could split them, you're like, I feel good about that. But you're all or nothing right now going against a Clemson team that looks pretty strong. The comment that was pulled up here, second by Florida Man in Texas, maybe later in the week, he was saying, what do you think about playing Tate Rodemaker second half at Clemson or earlier if Jordan Travis is stuck in his own head.
No. Jordan Travis is your quarterback. Again, he was 15 of 30 in that game. I think he had 5 drops, including one that would have been a first down, 2 that would have been first downs to Johnny Wilson, and a touchdown to Malik McClain. That would have been a good catch, but you're on scholarship. You can make those catches. I thought Jordan was fine. I mean, he had basically 300 yards of total offense against one of the top 10 defenses in the country. So no, I thought he wasn't good. He wasn't as good as he's been. Not many quarterbacks are against that. And this week, he is going to struggle. Understand that. Jordan Travis is not going to he's not going to have an E.J. Manuel 2012 game against Clemson. He's not going to have 450 yards of offense. He's not going to throw for 300. He's just not. That doesn't mean he's not playing the position well. These two defenses are hard to score on. And he didn't. That doesn't absolve him of playing poorly and making bad throws, which he did. He made some really bad decisions, but he, in my opinion, is by far your best chance. He's your best chance, man. He's your best chance. There's no real there's no real question about it. And it was really good. The one bright spot maybe you can see is, man, those legs still work, and you are going to need them against Clemson. And if they decide they're not going to let him beat him with his legs, which they did last year, if they still have the personnel to do that, that should theoretically open up you to take shots down the field like Wake Forest did against this team.
Sorry about that, Ben. William Flynn was asking, guys, if the team practices tight this week, would you report on it? If you watch the Warchant report, that's part of why I picked NC State to win. I just didn't think Florida State had like a really strong, those 2 days that we were out there did not look nearly as crisp as it was LSU week, Boston College week. I thought it looked better than Wake Forest, but we saw how they practiced, how they played against Wake Forest. And I just thought, well, they're practicing a little bit better, but probably not good enough to go on the road and beat the number 14 team in the nation, although they didn't really play like the 14 team in the nation. So,
well, no, they're not either. That they're not, especially because of that offense. And now, they don't have their quarterback probably for the foreseeable future, so they're in trouble. That's why it felt like such a golden opportunity wasted.
James B's in the house again. I know
B.
Not much of a soundtrack on this show, but sometimes you got to bring it back. Our guy out there. By the way, did you see Jay from Daytona Beach?
I did. He came up. Well, let's talk to James B for a second now. James B, you are the best. Thank you very much, man. That's very kind. I hope we see you on Saturday. I hope you'll be in town. I hope anybody watching this that has plans to go to that game will actually show up. They're going to need you. This is not an unwinnable game by any stretch. I promise you. Clemson has a very good defense. Their offense is still questionable. And they have not played in a real road environment this year. Boston College ain't it. Wake Forest, they had half the crowd was orange. They have not played in a real road environment. This will be the first time. And you do have a good team. It is not a great team. It is not a championship team, but it is a good team. Certainly capable of beating a 4-point favorite at home.
All right.
Just say it. Just throwing that out there, gang. So I hope I'm trusting James B will be there. So, and thank you very much for the donation. Too kind. And yes, I did see Jay from Daytona. Only got to see him for a second, though. I didn't know he was going to be in the press box, but he was in the press box. I didn't even get to ask him what he was doing up there.
Really?
Maybe he said he was in the Champions Club or something, or whatever their version of the Champions Club is. I think he said he was there, but he came in and said hello to us, which was cool.
The Wolf's Den, huh?
He came and talked to us when it was 17-3.
Oh, okay. And
then they did not score a single point after that. So if you want to blame somebody, blame Jay from Daytona.
Yeah. I really haven't watched a lot of Clemson this season. I mean, I did see the second half against NC State where NC State just really couldn't do a lot against them. Is it the defense?
But don't you think like the NC State offense, you saw that offense, you watched it for a full game. Of course they couldn't do anything against that Clemson defense. Right. Florida State does have more weapons, a lot more weapons. They have an ability with a mobile quarterback and some dudes that go make plays on the outside to go put some stress on that defense at least. That's the hope you have. You're going to have to hit a couple big plays, but you can hit a couple big plays. And, I know they said that Johnny was targeted back to those receiver stats. He was targeted 10 times or 8 times and only caught 2 of them.
Yes.
I don't remember I know he dropped the 2. Oh, and then the one was the third down over the middle that was a really low throw that he almost kind of dove and caught. I know this, though, Aslan. On one-on-one jump balls on the outside, he was 2 for 2. So that could be a more when everything else isn't working. Instead of running into the line to lose a yard, which you will do against this defense quite a lot, in throwing screen passes or trying to throw to Marquiston Douglas over the middle. Instead of doing that kind of stuff, if you throw it up to 14 on just goes down the sideline, one-on-one jump balls, I know that you don't want to be like a caveman offense. You want to have more variety, but that isn't going to be covered. No, people don't cover that play. So try that a few more times.
Well said, Corey. Let's try to look at the PFF grades. Brett Taylor, Clemson's offense is improving every week. Their receivers are getting healthy. They're figuring out what they can do well and doing it. Their offensive line has drastically improved over last year. Do not underestimate.
Buddy, it's nobody in the history of Tallahassee has underestimated Clemson football. I'm not underestimating Clemson. I know that the offense isn't the strength of their team, and I know they had 3 points late in the second quarter against Boston College. And I saw that Boston College defense. They are not – Clemson is not elite offensively. They are elite defensively. They're certainly good enough offensively, and they will score some points. But you've got to hope that you can hold them to 21, 24, and you give yourself a fighting chance.
Justin Priest, if our defense can pressure Clemson's quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei,
nice.
Does FSU have a chance? What's more important, Corey? Protecting Jordan or pressuring DJ?
That's a tough one. It's like Sophie's choice. Man, I would say protecting Jordan because I think that the key to this game is can you at least slow down the run? Clemson, I don't think is a great running attack. They do have a decent offensive line. It's not great, but Louisville ran up the middle against Florida State. Wake Forest ran up the middle and ran for a lot of yards against Florida State, and so did NC State. And NC State did it when you knew their quarterback could not complete a pass. That's the troubling part. And that's really – who are you mad at there? Are you mad at Norvell and Fuller for Fabian Lovett not being healthy and Robert Cooper not being healthy and Jarrett Jackson getting hurt? I mean, you can be upset that they, like I said, they didn't go out and get better defensive linemen in the portal. But, man, it's bad luck. Some of that's just bad luck. They are normally going to be – LSU couldn't run on them at all, weirdly, when they were fully healthy. Now that they're down to their, really the bottom of the barrel and their depth in the middle of the line, you see the results, man. They struggle to stop the run. They give up a lot of gash plays in the middle of the line. Shout out to Tatum Bethune, though. He had 14 tackles. He had a couple of really big tackles for loss. That was I thought that was by far his best game as a Seminole, but it was against that offense, which isn't saying a ton.
Well, hey, Miami lost and Florida looks increasingly mediocre. So maybe there's the things that we should also hang our hat on and be thankful for, Corey.
But then all of a sudden, Georgia Tech can't lose. The one you thought was the sure win, all of a sudden they're beating everyone. Come on, man. Can't catch a break.
I'm happy for that Brent Key. I didn't realize he was a Georgia Tech alum. I got a soft spot for alums going home, other than Mario. Room for Scott, Nebraska. Well, I mean, they beat Duke. But Duke was like a 3 or 4 point favorite, I think, on the flats.
And they also won at Pitt, which is just inexplicable. Yeah. That's one of the most inexplicable games of the whole college football season is Georgia Tech going up there and beating Pitt.
Matthew Sims asks, is the Mill restaurant still open in Tallahassee? Never even heard of it. Not sure, Matthew.
I haven't either. Check Google, Matthew. Come on, man. Come on. But I don't think if it is, I haven't heard of it. So I guess they're not. Maybe they'll sponsor the show.
Z-Chan was asking how he can become a pillar. We've never really outlined it. Like, we don't have tiers like the boosters, but maybe it needs to be, Ed Lemix said that he is a pillar. So maybe like you need to have like 3 people.
Yeah.
Like that are current.
Oh, sign you off. Sign you like trying to join a frat or Skull and Bones or something. You have to have people be references. Yeah.
I was thinking more like the Mafia. But all right, that works too. Skull and Bones. That's cool. All right. We'll take all the questions. We've I don't know we've beat the dead horse on this, but we got plenty to talk about throughout the week. The Jeff Cameron Show will be 1 to 3 o'clock on Monday on 93.3 FM in Tallahassee, as well as right here on YouTube, Warchant TV. Hopefully you're subscribed to this. Hopefully you're subscribed to the website. It's only $10 for an entire year. Have we ever figured out the math on that, Corey? I know it was like a fraction of a cent for
probably 85 cents a month. I was going to say, so Clemson's probably already, I assume as a team they get together and watch film on today probably is when they watch film, if not tomorrow morning. And they watch I'm sure they watch all the plays. They splice up all the plays from offense, defense, and special teams. What do you think the reaction is when they show the Mastromanno play? I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I've never, and like, it's like, of course that happened to Florida. Like, number one, he probably can run for the first down, but it's going to be close. He might have to make somebody miss right at the marker. But that was certainly a better option than what he ended up doing. And it's crazy when you think about it. They said it was a 5-yard penalty and a loss of down, which seems really punitive. Like, I guess they're like, nobody's ever going to punt over the line of scrimmage. Why would that even come up? Why are we even putting this in the rule book? This will never happen. And then, but that ended up being the ball, because that was his best kick of the night. He kicked it on the run now the punt returner was confused. He ran up to think it was a fake. And then he ended up punting it, and it rolled out at like the 20-yard line. Yeah. And instead, NC State got the ball at the FSU 13-yard line. That's a 67-yard penalty. And keep in mind, if the ball goes out at the 20 and NC State has a minus 23-yard drive, which they did right after they got the ball, well, you're talking about them either punting out of their own end zone or it's a safety. So that's how fine a line this stupid sport can be sometimes, man. If he punts it from a yard back from where he was, then Florida State wins that game. I'm convinced Florida State wins that game if he doesn't do that. But then also there's a million ifs, and they did not come to fruition.
That's a thing. Is it better or worse that you have multiple game deciding moments rather than like one?
But don't you think Louisville fans, and I know there aren't nearly as many passionate Louisville football fans as there are Florida State's, but like they look at that game the same way? Like when they're talking about the way they lost to Florida State. I mean, it's just all LSU is like, oh, we can't make a kick, we can't catch a punt. There's all these, every game there's going to be 5 or 6 or 8 plays that you're going to lament because, man, that they were right there. If you make that one play, you're going to win, and that's just, I'm telling you, it's just. And I know I continue to say this, but it's the NFL, man. It's the NFL. It's every game comes down to 4 or 5 plays. That if they swing one way or the other, you win the game. And it's just, that's where this sport is right now. Until you get incredible talent, you're always going to be coming down to the final couple drives in the fourth quarter, and you're always going to have 2 or 3 plays here or there to lament.
And you don't have a kicker right now. Do you change anything knowing that he at least made a 47-yarder? I know it wasn't high pressure. Does anything change there? You cannot, these games, man, you cannot play Florida, Miami, and Clemson and not have a kicker, man. You lost the game by 2 points. And if you had a capable kicker, I think any kicker that's been here since Dan Mowry is probably in play to kick a field goal against NC State to win the football game. It's a huge problem, man.
Yeah, no, it is. And I wrote about it last week. It was very prescient or prescient. I'm never sure how to pronounce that word.
And listen, at practice, Corey mentioned on the podcast, like they put the speaker right up on him during one of the periods that they were kicking where they really watch. I mean, everybody's watching the field goal kicker. They put the speaker with all the music coming out of it. Norvell was maybe a foot or 2 away from him, it seemed like, from our vantage point, hands on his knees, like staring daggers into him. So they did kind of ramp up some of the pressure on him. So, I mean, you did change your approach. So I don't know how much you really can do to change things in practice to get your field goal kicker ready. But they like kind of what they saw on Tuesday. I mean, he did it in the game. I just don't know what's going to change for Norvell. Like, how many situations can you find yourself into that he can execute? They're like, all right, now we trust you. Because you said he had to do it into a game, which I agree with.
Yeah, as Andre says right there, he wishes they had the opportunity to find out. You'd rather lose by missing a chip shot than throwing a pick. I agree with the chip shot. A 40-yarder is not a chip shot. Not for this kid.
But they wouldn't have been in the frame of mind to take that long shot. If they knew they had a good kicker.
Correct. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. That's the fact that the NC State defensive back knew that they weren't going to just trying to set up a field goal. Number one, means they're pretty well coached, because how many defensive backs are in tune with the other team's kicking game? But he knew that they didn't trust Fitzgerald. So I'm sure they told them before the game, look, they're probably going to be going for it a lot on fourth down. Even when they're inside the 15 or 20, they don't trust this kid. So be ready. They're not going to be just settling for field goals. So that's good coaching and it's good situational awareness. But yeah, man, that's a huge issue because you're in a lot of close games, and 3 points is, NC State won because their dude was 4 of 4, including one from 53. I mean, that's a huge luxury to have, man. And so it does, you hate to be simplistic about it, but if you had a kicker you can trust or a kicker that was good, you would certainly be 5-1. And I'm not trying to kill the kid. He did make a great kick in that game, but you don't go for it on fourth down in the first quarter. You kick your 40-yard field goal. And you certainly are playing after you get that targeting call and pick up that next first down. You're playing to put yourself in a position for a 40-yard field goal. Now, even good college kickers miss those kind of kicks, but it was so out of the realm of even rationality to settle for a 40-yard field goal that it changed the whole it changes the whole complexion out of how you call a game. And what's a bummer about it is what if they call defensive holding right there or pass interference? So you get the ball at the 10-yard line. And then you do say, look, we're going to center this, and we're going to have Ryan Fitzgerald win this game for us. And then he does go and kick a 30-yard field goal to win you the game. His career might take off. You know what I mean? He just won on the road, kicked a game-winning field goal on the road against NC State in that house of horrors. He would have been cheered. He would have gotten the biggest cheer other than Jordan Travis on starting introductions this next weekend, and people would have been really rooting for him. Now, what if you send him out there for a 42-yard field goal and he shanks it against Clemson? The boos are going to come. Please don't boo. I'm not advocating for you to boo. I don't want you to boo. I know some people will boo. And then he might be broken forever. And that's forever at Florida State. And that's just a bummer because you kind of need a kicker when you're going to play a bunch of games that come down to the fourth quarter. Or you can throw it up to Johnny Wilson.
I need a 23andMe with the Fitzgerald family and the Clark family. There's some crossover. I've never seen somebody so sympathetic and so protective of another man. As Corey is Ryan Fitzgerald.
Well, man, I don't like college players being booed especially
I don't
kickers.
Either. He's a really good kid. He does a mattress drive to give beds to underprivileged people, man. He's a good human being, but we can put that in this one box and put a great bow on it.
Well, I'm not saying, hey, Mike, let Fitzgerald kick all these field goals. I get it. I'm saying that please, when he misses again, which he will, please don't boo him. That's all. That's not the kind of energy this team needs right now around it. But yeah, that was just overall, it was such a frustrating, disappointing loss not because you lost on the road to NC State, man. You do that all the time. It's because what a win would have meant, man.
Yes.
Even a 20-19, pull it out in the final 20 seconds. Who gives a flip? You're 5-1.
We don't care about style points. Win.
Yeah, yes. You're 5-1, man. And that you had it right there. And you let it slip away with, whether you want to call it a poor play call, a poor decision by the quarterback, both. It just, you were right there. But the good news, silver lining is you were right there. I was up there the last time they played in that stadium.
I was there too. I was there in 18.
It was the Chuba game, and it was not close. The year you were there was 18, which they could have scored 70 if they wanted to. Tamori and Terry had a big day. That was it. I think I don't know. I don't remember the score, but I feel like it was like 47-28. It was a disaster. And then the one in 2020 was just as gross. You're making strides. You're on par now with all these other ACC teams besides Clemson. I truly believe that. Maybe Wake, you could say, is a little better than you, but you have climbed to a point where you're in that tier. You're below Clemson. You're in this wash you're in Clemson's wash with everyone else. NC State, Wake, Syracuse, Louisville, whoever you want to throw in there, North Carolina. You're right there. The next step is getting above that tier, figuring out a way to be better than NC State consistently, be better than Wake Forest, and then go catch Clemson if that's possible. You can do it tonight. You can do it this week, babe. You can do it Saturday night. Aslan, what are we going to do when they beat Clemson on Saturday night? I can't wait. But that's one thing, though. If they do beat Clemson,
yes, totally
which is
possible.
A possibility.
It's
a distinct possibility. They are 5-2 with a win over the number 4 team in the country, going into a bye week. Maybe they get ranked again. It doesn't really even matter if they're ranked, but they're 5-2 with a win over Clemson. That's good stuff. We would all take that in a heartbeat, and that is still on the table. That is still right there to be had.
All right. Good optimism there from Corey
I'm
Clark.
trying, man. I'm trying. Fitzy's going to win it. Fitzy's going to kick the game winner, man. I know it. I can just feel it in my bones and my plums.
By the way, our guy Thomas Giddings said the new shirts should be there Tuesday. Hopefully the luck will change now.
Well, T-Gids, nice, man. Can remind me again what the shirts are?
I don't know. They're not hockey ones. I mean, it's a surprise.
Yeah. No, that's right. Okay. I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
Thanks all of you for hanging out with us. Thanks to B Spice, Showtime Spice, Spice One, Ben, producer backstage. Shout out to Javi Borges, Z Chan, T Giddings, the Florida man in Texas, aka General Sherman, and James B. He's a pillar. We will be back Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday doing shows. We'll do a lot. When do you want to do a live show, Corey? Wednesday night, Thursday night?
Ooh, that's gonna be tough because I think I'm going to the Braves game on Wednesday. So, might have to be a Thursday, buddy. Okay. Sorry, might have to, move the schedule around a little bit.
Yeah. Irish O'Fell wanted to be here, but we told him to sleep. Hopefully, he listens to us.
Well, no, he's driving, so we don't want him to sleep as he's driving. We want him to wait till he gets home.
And yes, William, this has been the Monday Wake Up Warchant podcast. So thanks for listening, everybody. Jeff Cameron Show 1 to 3 o'clock. Headlines Tuesday 1 to 3 o'clock. Come hang out at Hotel Indigo for the pregame show with Jeff and Tom before the Clemson game at the Hotel Indigo, presented by Warchant Game Day and Zaxby's. We'll have to watch along. Everything. We're still moving. We're still climbing over here.
Corner Pocket happy hour on Friday night with Jeff and I. Come there. I met a couple in Raleigh. They're from Connecticut, Aslan. Mark, I think his name's Mark. His wife is a travel agent, which I didn't know they had travel agents anymore, but she is. Her name's Michelle, and they were in Raleigh for the game, and then they're coming down to Clemson, and they said they were going to make it because I was hanging out with Bill in Raleigh, the owner of Corner Pocket, and we kind of befriended them, and so yeah, they said they'd be at Corner Pocket on Friday night. I told them you probably wouldn't be, but maybe we can get you to change your mind.
I mean, you don't show up 10 times and you develop a reputation, everybody. But I showed up 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
No credit for that.
And they lost, right? They lost when you showed up, I think. Right?
No, it was Boston College week.
Well, then I feel like you're 1-0 when you show up on Friday night, so you need to come back. We need a big dub. The whole city needs a big dub on Saturday night.
Thanks again, everybody, for watching. It's been the Sunday Smash, which I think is presented by ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. Check them out. They're somewhere in Florida, wherever you're at in Florida. They've got a shop. They got a location in Tallahassee. They got an awesome one on Thomasville Road. Go check it out. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Stay connected to warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Thank you again for watching the Sunday Smash.